Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our council meeting and committee of the whole meetings today. If you'd join me and rise and we'll sing "O Canada."
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Madam Clerk, would you take the roll call, please?
Councillor Mackey,
Present.
Councillor McKay,
Present.
Councillor Carlton, Councillor Pringle, Councillor McQueen, Councillor Nielsen, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Dickert, Councillor Kentner, Councillor Keaveney, Councillor Body, Councillor Gregg,
Present.
Warden Milne,
Present.
Councillor Dobreen,
Present.
Councillor Matrosovs, Councillor Bourdignon. Councillor Bourdignon sends his regrets at this time. Councillor Doug Hutchinson. And Councillor Eccles is away today, so Councillor Doug Hutchinson is in attendance on his behalf. Councillor Tom Hitchinson.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and indeed, welcome to Councillor Hutchison from West Grey. So if the people over on this side would get their names a little bit closer, the same as these two over here, then there'd be this confusion about Mackey, McKay would be a lot easier to sort out. But nonetheless, we'll proceed. So before we begin, I want to acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabe, Six Nations of the Grand River, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, Wyandot, Wyandot peoples on whose traditional territories we gather and whose ancestors signed treaties with our ancestors. We recognize also the Métis and Inuit whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. Is there any declaration of interest regarding any item on today's agenda? Not seeing any. If one should arise, you are, of course, free to declare it at that time. And I'll note that Councillor Bourdignon has now joined the meeting online. We have a special guest with us here this morning. So with council's indulgence, I'd like to move the item news and celebrations to this point of the meeting. Does anyone object? No? Okay. Well, as I mentioned, we do have Ray Robertson here this morning with us. He was very recently inducted into the Canadian Agricultural Hall of Fame, and I believe we have a short video clip that we're going to show. Rob's going to do that. Here we go.
Ray Robertson has committed his career in Canadian agriculture to working on behalf of farmers and the industry to build sustainable programs that adapt to economic, environmental, and political realities. Born and raised in Markdale, Ontario, Ray has been a dairy farmer, fieldman for the Ontario Soil and Crop Improvement Association, and builder of organizations. With a particular passion for forages, He helped put Canadian hay on the world stage and improve the market for farmers across Canada. Ray has always known the value of forages to soil health and crop rotation, but recognized the crop was undervalued and underrepresented. His perseverance was instrumental in starting the Canadian Forage and Grassland Association, CFGA, a national voice for the diverse needs of the forage industry that helped build a stronger market for Canadian hay. Ray was a founding director with the organization for 12 years, including a 4-year term as chair. Through the CFGA, Ray identified local, national, and international demands for Canadian hay. He led trade missions to China, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, and the US, and hosted tours in Canada to promote the value of Canadian hay with visitors from the Caribbean, Middle East, China, and Nepal. Canadian hay is now a high-quality, respected product in many countries, thanks to Ray. When rural extension offices were closed in Ontario, Ray saw the opportunity to continue providing valuable services and programs to farmers with Gray Agricultural Services Centre, a fee-for-service communication hub he established to deliver education and extension services to farmers. The centre follows the successful template of Ray's endeavours. Start with a vision, develop an organizational structure and recruit people, find financing and empower people to make it their own. A lifelong ambassador for environmentally sustainable agriculture, Ray received the T.R. Hilliard Distinguished Agricultural Extension Award and has been inducted into the Ontario Agricultural Hall of Fame. Ray served 15 years on the board of Gay-Lee Foods Cooperative and 9 years on the Canadian Cooperative Association Board, where he chaired the International Program Committee to support cooperatives around the world. In this role, Ray helped local farmers in Nepal improve a small dairy cooperative and initiated support to see a new library, science and computer lab built at the local school. An innovative thinker, organized leader, and world-class champion for Canadian forages, Ray Robertson is a team builder and problem solver for Canadian agriculture. Welcome to the Canadian Agricultural Hall of Fame, Ray.
As I mentioned before, Ray is here with us today and his wife Evelyn is here as well. So Ray, would you like to come up and say a few words? I don't know if there's a more distinguished voice in Gray County agriculture today. I don't know who it would be, but Ray, yeah, I can't say any more than what was in the video. So go ahead, Ray, if you'd like to say a few words. Just Savannah will get the microphone.
Well, thank you very much, Brian, and to members of County Council. I was certainly surprised to have this happen to me, but it's one of those things that I just saw other people seem to think there was something I had done. Just to go through, I made some notes because I maybe could take most of your morning if I was to start talking about the things in agriculture, both in Gray County, the region, Ontario, across Canada, and overseas. But I made a few notes myself so I can kind of stay on track. And as I reflect on considerable acknowledgement I've received in 2023, it is incumbent on me to identify many of the people and organizations who have been a major part of my team and deserve tremendous recognition. Certainly, Gray County Council is at the top of my list. It is also important to me to recognize my wife Evelyn and our family, who have always been very supportive of me. My wife Evelyn is here, and also my son is here. It looks like I've got a police escort today, but he knew that a pretty rowdy bunch here, so he thought she could come along. So welcome, Brad and Ev. I've always considered Gray County an important player and part of the hub that has enabled us to assist in developing organizations and deliver many valuable programs and events that would otherwise not have been possible. Looking back, the provincial government of the day in 2000 closed all the county agriculture offices across the province on April 30th. With the leadership and support of Gray County Council and staff, Gray County Agricultural Services opened on May 1st, 2000. During a meeting in early 2000 with Norm Gamble and the CEO of Grey County and Warden Howard Gregg. They were extremely positive about the proposal, and when I appeared at County Council, it was a unanimous decision. Grey County Council and staff recognized that it was an opportunity to support agriculture, which was the largest industry in the county, and this would fill the void created when the provincial government pulled out. I believe it is fully recognized that we have met the challenge and served the broad range of industry from the smallest to the largest producers and a whole bunch in between. Sorry, I got sort of lost my words here. A bunch in between, and the general public, including many related to agriculture in Grey County and beyond. The Ag Center has effectively served as an efficient hub, which we have been able to serve and deliver beneficial services to farmers and the general public, in addition to assisting county staff with agricultural projects. We were successful in obtaining a number of contracts that helped us serve many producers and organizations, as well as spread the word. For several years, during the early years of the Environmental Farm Plan program, Grey County was recognized as having the largest number of farmers participating in the program of any province in Ontario. The staff at Grey Ag Services certainly have grown in their positions and are well qualified to take the office and programming to greater heights in the future. Retirement in Grey County, Grey Ag is in my plans, and I'm truly proud of what the staff can achieve going forward. I must confirm that Lori Smith and the team at Grey Ag have been in high gear to plan and deliver inspiring offerings of top-notch programs and information to area farmers in the ag industry for 24. The 58th annual Grey Bruce Farmers Week kicks off the 7-day conference in Elmwood in early January, followed by a record of 23 winter courses starting in mid-January through to late April. With reference to my inductions, I have never dreamed of any kind of recognition I have. Being told that the initiatives I started in the leadership provided will be a major benefit to farmers and the agriculture industry across Canada for decades into the future made me realize that our efforts were truly worthwhile. For that, I pay tribute to so many people who have worked with and deserve more recognition than I can possibly do justice in just a few words today. I want to thank Grey County Council and your staff for your many good wishes and express my appreciation for your support and collaboration as we work together to advance agriculture industry in Grey County. As I conclude, there is one passing thought. If farmers are to feed the world, we need all the help we can get. I know we're up to the challenge. May God bless you all.
Thank you, Ray. And as I say, I don't know of a more distinguished voice in Grey County agriculture today. So thank you very much, Ray, and congratulations. Okay, well, we'll move on to our next item of business, which is the adoption of the minutes. But first we have is the special committee of the whole pre-budget discussion minutes dated November 3rd. Would someone care to move those minutes, please? Sue or Councillor Patterson and Councillor Dickert. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. The next are the minutes from the special committee of the whole pre-budget discussion dated November 3rd. Would someone care to move those minutes? Councillor Hutchison, Councillor Keaveney. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. The next is the County Council and Committee of the Whole minutes dated November 9. Someone care to move those, please? Councillor Carlton and Councillor Pringle. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Committee of the Whole closed session minutes dated November 9th. Someone move those minutes, please. Councillor McKay and Councillor Mackey. Excellent. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Long-term care committee of management minutes dated November 14th. Someone care to, Councillor Hutchison and, oh, we can't put both of those on. Councillor Patterson. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. The long-term care committee of management closed session minutes dated November 14th. Someone care to move those, please? Councillor Keaveney, Councillor Nielsen. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. The CAO Performance Evaluation Committee minutes dated November 16th. Councillor Hutchison, Councillor Deckard, any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. CAO Performance Evaluation Committee closed meeting minutes of November 16th. Someone move those. Councillor Body. Councillor McKay. Mackey. I was 10 minutes into the meeting before I screwed it up. So I apologize again. But anyway, we got it right. Councillor Mackey. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. I don't believe there's any closed meeting matters required now. Nope. Reports. Grey Bruce Public Health Board of Health minutes. Is Dr. Era going to? There he is. Welcome. Good morning, Dr. Era.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning.
I'll just get somebody to move and second these minutes first. Councillor McKay and Councillor Carlton. Dr. Era, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Good morning, Council. The update from the minutes is 3 points. One is related to the flu and COVID vaccine and management of respiratory outbreaks in Grey Bruce. The operation continues to be optimal. We have the capacity, we have the knowledge and the collaboration with local partners. So that area continues to be as good as it could be. The other 2 points, one is related to modernization of public health or strengthening public health. The Ministry of Health made an announcement a few months ago, and we're still receiving information about the direction. There is a few elements to it. One is an increase of 1% per year for 3 years for health units across Ontario. With the inflation rate and multiple factors and the collective agreements that were signed, the 1% is actually a budget a freeze, and that is across the province. There has been a number of health units that activated restructuring and layoffs. We will do our best to actually maintain services, and we will keep you posted about the progress of this file. The final update is about the private well water testing program. The Grey Bruce Public Health, just in terms of background of the program, launched a locally developed service to ensure Grey and Bruce residents have equitable, timely access to Public Health Ontario private well testing program. And the new service is developed in collaboration with area municipalities. Thank you to everybody around the table for your support. There are 14 locations and 2 routes, one in Grey and one in Bruce. There are 2 locations also, one in Owen Sound and one in Walkerton, where there is testing daily. The rest of the 14 locations, the test is weekly, and we look forward to feedback down the road from the residents and the municipalities about the optimization of this service. We can always reevaluate and improve as we need, as residents need. And that's my update, Mr. Chair. Open to questions as always.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for Dr. Era? Not seeing any. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Moving on to bylaws, we have 2 bylaws there. All right, call for the vote to receive those minutes. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Bylaws, we have 2. The first is a bylaw to adopt amendment number 18 to the County of Grey official plan affecting lands described as part lot 27, concession 16, Proton AS in GS 148863, geographic township of Proton, now in the township of Southgate. Would someone care to move that bylaw, please? Councillor Deckard. Counselor Patterson. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And the clerk wishes to share a few words of wisdom regarding the confirming bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just wanted to bring to council's attention that going forward, there will be a confirming bylaw on each council agenda, just ahead of some proposed changes that we're going to make in 2024 to our meeting structure and procedure bylaw. So just to bring that to your attention, it'll be probably consistent with your local municipalities instead of the annual once a year.
Thank you, Chair. So is there a mover and seconder for the confirming bylaw? Counselor McQueen, Counselor Carlton. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. And I apologize, I got so carried away with Ray's presentation there. I forgot to ask, are there any other news or celebrations that any counselor would wish to share with us? Counselor Hutchison.
Yes, good morning, Council. On behalf of the Mayor of West Grey, I'd like to announce that West Grey and Grey County has another world-class athlete in its midst. Over the past couple of weeks, Alex McGilvery, who is the son of Jennifer and Jim McGilvery of Durham, competed in the Softball World Cup Under-18 tournament in Mexico for Team Canada, where they brought home a bronze medal. Alex was also nominated to the all-world team and as a third baseman. So I'd like to congratulate Alex and his family for his award. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Counselor Keaveney.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and good morning, everyone. Meaford is always the place to be, but especially next weekend, November the 30th through to December the 3rd. That is our second annual Christmas on the Bay event, which is an outdoor European market held in our market square. Incredibly exciting with artisan vendors, everything from Christmas decorations to woolen socks, anything that you can imagine. The mascot Georgie will be on site, and there's lots of entertainment from Indigenous crafts to cookie decorating to live music to there'll be a caricaturist there. There's a princess show, and there's the drag king and queens are going to be back. There'll be the Christmas tree lighting, and Santa Claus will be present. And as well on the 2nd is our Kinsman's Santa Claus parade, and that will start at 5 o'clock. And on the Sunday, December the 3rd, Mayor Kentner and myself will each be doing Christmas readings at the Market Square. So it's a pretty exciting Meaford weekend, and we invite everyone to come and join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Yeah, it sounds busy indeed. That's good. Counselor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Good morning, County Council. Just wanted to congratulate the Housing Department, Anne Marie and her team, and their partnership with the CMHA. We had the opportunity to have a tour of the 14th Street Transitional Housing this morning, and it's a wonderful looking building, and I think it'll provide a tremendous opportunity for some of the vulnerable citizens within our community that need that form of assistance. So again, just thank you for the work that you've done, and it'll certainly be well used by a number of people.
Thank you, sir. And indeed, it is an amazing looking facility. Anyone else? Oh, Counselor Carlton.
Thank you and good morning, County Council. I'd just like to mention that yesterday, Mayor Boddy and I were privileged to be part of the group who were honoring the Peace Medal person who was awarded that by the YMCA yesterday. And that went to Sharif Rahman, and his family were there to accept it. So it was a wonderful ceremony and good to see that happen.
Thank you, Sue. Anyone else? Okay, not seeing any. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn from the council portion of the meeting. Counselor Carlton and Counselor McQueen. All those in favor? That is carried. We'll just take a minute to change over to committee of the whole. Thank you, Rob. Call the meeting to order. The committee of the whole. Is there any declaration of interest related to any item on today's agenda? Not seeing any. Again, if one should arise, you can declare it at any time. Is there any business arising from minutes? Nope, don't see any. I don't believe we have any delegations. Determination of items requiring separate discussion from the consent agenda as presented there. Anybody wish any of those? Counselor, Greg.
Good morning, Warden, and through you, I'd like to speak to items, a couple items within 6D, please. So if those could be pulled.
So the warden has to pay $10 or whatever. There we go. Oop. The tour at the 14th Street was so interesting, I forgot to turn my phone off. Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you, Warden. I'd like to pull 6B, please.
Any others? Okay, I'd take a motion to receive the balance of the consent agenda. Councillor Patterson, Councillor Keaveney. All those in favor? That is carried. Items for direction and discussion. The first is the Provincial Offences Court Annual Report. Someone care to move that, please, first? Councillor Hutchison and Councillor Pringle. So Amanda, please come on up. Welcome. And the floor is yours.
Good morning, County Council. I'm here today to give you a brief overview of how the POA operations have gone over the last year, highlighting some of our big wins and some of our challenges we continue to deal with. As you know, the POA program has responsibility for various court operations in both Grey and Bruce counties, and both have seen some changes over the last year. One of our biggest challenges continues to be the lack of judicial resources, which has resulted in our overall court dates being reduced and last-minute court closures. We did so well over the pandemic to limit our backlog. However, with these reduced court dates, we have been experiencing some significant backlog of trial matters. It's also increased the workload on staff to organize and coordinate the court dates we do have to effectively and efficiently manage matters in the system. Another major impact were recent downloads from the province of administration duties that used to be done by the Justice of the Peace and have now been put onto the court administration staff. So that paperwork includes extensions of time to pay. So for anyone who can't pay their fine by the due date, that paperwork now can go in front of a court clerk. They can grant, however, they can't deny. So if they aren't satisfied with the application that's being made, then it has to be forwarded to a Justice of the Peace. The other part is a reopening. So if somebody feels they were convicted through no fault of their own, that information and paperwork would go in front of a court clerk. And again, they can grant, but they cannot deny. So if they aren't satisfied by the affidavit, that would have to be forwarded on to a Justice of the Peace. And lastly are the fail to respond dockets. So if anyone doesn't select an option on the back of their ticket within the 45 days, the clerk of the court reviews those documents, make sure everything's regular and proper on the ticket. If it is, they can convict, and if not, then they quash. So this has created a lot more administrative work for our staff, but it has made more efficiencies for defendants. You know, they used to have to wait for us to have a Justice of the Peace on site, which could be, 1 week or 1 to 2 weeks, or if we had court closures, even longer. So it has been more efficient for that. And our key priority through all of this has been customer service. So one of the big wins that we have had in customer service is that we have noticed an increase use of language barriers that are coming to our counter. So what we've done is we've created a program that involves using an iPad that sits at the front counter. So if somebody comes to the counter and has a language barrier, then we can use Google Translate either verbally. So the counter attendant will speak and then pass it back with any language out there. Or they can verbally, or they can do it written. So if they feel more comfortable typing what they want to ask, then we can communicate back and forth in the language of their choice. So we have used this quite often and have received very positive feedback for having that option at our municipality. Another big win is we've kind of redone how our early resolution process worked. Originally, when we signed up for this option, so somebody who receives their ticket, they want to have a chance to have a conversation with the prosecution before going to trial. They used to be able to come on their court date. It would all be done virtually. They would go into a breakout room with our two prosecutors back and forth, which was great. It was a fast process. However, there were times where the justice would have to sit and wait. And with the reduced court dates, we needed something more efficient, more effective. So there were no breaks in those court dates. We were using every minute as best as possible. So what we did is we decided to create a new ER process. The legislation supported it, where we created new ER days that would be on non-court days. So if they request option 2 to speak with the prosecutor, they're given an official court notice that it tells them to log into Zoom or in person. They can have those discussions with the prosecutor, get all of their questions, concerns, have a more wholesome discussion with the prosecutor with no time limit on a date that's not court. And then from there, whatever the option is, it gets adjourned to a court date to be held in front of a justice of the peace. From this new process, our court immediately noticed a drastic reduction in time being taken away on court days. And it's very rarely that a breakout room needs to be taken to interrupt court. This has also allowed us to put a lot more matters on the docket. So instead of only having 20 people to allow for those breaks in time, we can now put 30 people and get things through the system a lot faster. We've been monitoring the stats of how successful this program is, and we'll continue to do so moving forward. We are continuing to have both virtual and in-person court matters. 95% of the people are attending virtually. However, we do continue to take safety precautions by monitoring the air quality in both Owen Sound and Walkerton, and have installed HEPA filters in both of our courtrooms. One of the trends that we have noticed, though, is a change in how our services are required. There's less people coming to our front counter. There is more in Owen Sound, but people are using payment systems online or over the phone. They're not driving here from long distances to attend court and then come to our counter. So they will attend court virtually and then call our office. So while our telephone have been a lot busier, we have less people attending the counter. It is still a continuous flow because we do have our address on the back of tickets. So that's the first contact that if there is somebody to come. Walkerton, on the other hand, has seen a drastic decrease in counter attendance. And some days they won't even have anybody attend the POA counter in Walkerton. It used to be that everybody would have to attend Walkerton in person. They would attend the courthouse and then they would proceed after to go pay their fine at the Bruce County Administration Building. But now that nobody's attending court in person, the services isn't being used as much as it used to be. So we are continuing to monitor that. The other change that we have noticed is that although ticket volumes seem to be kind of steady for the last 4 years, we are starting to see an erosion in the ticket revenue. We attribute this to it's more expensive to run operations, the economic pressures on defendants who simply just can't pay their fines, and the fact that a lot of the set fines have not been increased in decades. As part of the Municipal Managers Association, I'm continuing to advocate the province to look at set fines being increased, which would help with some of the revenue. So that's all I have for my POA update today, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Amanda. Are there any questions? Kim?
I'll just add, thank you so much, Amanda. Just to add that Amanda will be providing this update to Bruce County as well, just to keep them in mind, because we are both signatories to that memorandum of understanding with the province. And also that when we did put forward the delegation requests for Roma, the set fines issue is one of the things that was noted there for a discussion with Solicitor General. So thanks, Amanda.
Okay, that concludes our items for discussion and decisions. Did we vote on those minutes or that report? We did not. All those in favor of receiving that report, that is carried. That's twice today. Well, 3 times. So we now come to the consent agenda items that were pulled for further discussion. I'll perhaps take them in the order that I received them. So Councillor Greg, you wish to speak to 6D. Do you want to move that?
I will not be moving the motion as presented.
Okay, then I'll see if I can get a mover. Sure. Okay, the clerk wishes to provide some clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. For the Community Services Committee minutes of November the 14th, the first resolution that was passed in that meeting regarding the Women's Center COCHI funding, that just requires an update to the minutes that instead of reading for consideration of Grey County Council as part of the 2024 budget process, it should instead read from the 2023 to 2024 allocated funding. So that item won't be proceeding to the 2024 budget. So if anyone wishes to move those minutes with that update, that could be done at this time.
So with that update in mind, would someone care to move those minutes? Councillor Matrosovs and seconder Councillor Hutchison. Very good. Okay, Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Warden. And through you, I just would like to inquire of the committee chair, a couple points here. Firstly, I guess I'll open. We've had a couple decent budget meetings to date. We kind of closed the last budget meeting with a 44-40 weighted vote on determining direction on several large ticket items. So I'm wondering what kind of discussion was had at the committee in terms of was it unanimous committee direction to forward these for budget? Was there an in-depth discussion on the shoulders of what council's already been struggling with in terms of how we move forward with significant cuts that are necessary? We just had a tour this morning of the 14th Street West facility. So was there consideration of other uses for that $26,000? Because right now we're aware that it's we'd like to open it, but it may not be open or staffed 24/7. And furthermore, the funding shortfall, we've got a surplus in the housing budget, and it's good to use it, but theoretically, if we had a deficit in every other department of the corporation, should we be guiding a surplus in that budget to the general corporate position as a whole instead of looking at it in isolation specific to just housing? I'm just wondering for context, how are all the other departments? No problem if we're all running surpluses. But if everyone else is running a deficit, then is this the best use of those dollars? So I know I can't support item 2, certainly, and ask for operational funding. That's not something I can support at this time, even to further it to budget. I think I'm prepared to make a decision today on that outcome. So a little bit of insight into the committee discussion, please.
So before I go to the chair, I will note that, as you correctly noted, the direction here is simply to include these items in the budget discussions. It's not to actually say this is what we're doing. So, Councillor Nielsen, you're the chair of that committee. I'll ask you to respond.
Thank you very much, Warden, and thank you to Councillor Greg. So the first item, the report that's being directed is that staff be directed to include the funding support of the 26,000 for the Women's Center. The discussion at the committee level was I'll butcher this a bit, but COCHI funding does exist for the county right now. So it's funding that's coming from the province and flows through. Staff identified that the requirements towards that funding fit well with the request from the Women's Center. This funding request made sense to utilize the funds that already exist now. So it's not a flow through to the 2024 budget. It's utilizing funds that have already been given to the county that, if they're not spent, I believe by April of next year, then they would have to be returned to the province. So staff were supportive of that particular request. The discussion around the table was that rather than having the funds be sent back, it's best to be used within the community. The second motion that came through that staff be directed to include the funding for the $10,000 annually for the hospice was a different discussion. Grey Bruce Hospice identified that they're currently working at producing like a foundation of friends group to help fund the hospice in some of these avenues. Their hope is that within the next 2 years, they'll have that friends group or foundation group up and running and to start fundraising to provide money to hospice. In the meantime, they're hoping to get support for this social services, social worker position as there's a need at the hospice to help families that are coming in under pretty stressful times. The caveat I'd like to just state to this one is that during the long-term care committee of management discussion, we had a discussion about our own social services worker within our long-term care homes. And it was a fulsome discussion at that stage as well. Ultimately, that budget wasn't touched, but it shows that the county has a need for these kind of services as well. And so could be tough to decide if we're going to support an outside agency's request for services that the county kind of really needs internally as well. So to kind of your point about, are we funding outside operations for the same thing that we need within the county? I think your last question was more regarding surplus funds and the affordable housing and utilization of that. I think for that particular answer, I'd prefer to go to staff for a better response than I might be able to give you myself.
Good answer. I'll ask Anne Marie if she wants to respond.
Certainly. So with the deficit that we did have, it was from January, February, and March of this year. As we took on the short-term shelter program, we had a lot of need and not a lot of funds from the province to support the need at the time. So that's where the deficit came from. We certainly weren't going to not provide accommodations in that time frame. When I look at our budget, so that's all part of the budget. So the short-term shelter program and our nonprofit and our own housing is all part of our housing budget. So we do have some surpluses in our not-for-profits that we could use towards and our capital that we can use towards the deficit in the short-term shelter. So in my mind, it's all one budget. We were just asked to come back to the committee to ask about how we could come up with funds to support the shortfall from January, February, March. And this is how we're proposing, is not digging into anybody else's funds or any of the department's funds, but trying to come up with that on our own. I'd just like to add to around your Coachie question. For 14th Street, we did use some Coachie funds, but because it was funded by the short-term shelter program, we couldn't stack that much funding from the province. So we did use some, but at our maximum that we could use. So there was no, these are funds that are remaining.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Councillor Gray.
So just further to that, and thanks for those explanations. Was there discussion about any other internal allocations that $26,000 could have been considered for instead of just externalizing it? And was there discussion about the financials for the hospice aren't a secret either, right? Because they're you can get the audited financials. Was there questions asked about the roles that are already there alongside the current ask? Because you can see the wages and they've got a consulting line and so forth. So was there those types of discussions as well, or just quickly forwarded?
Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you for that through the warden to Councillor Gregg. In terms of the hospice questions, I don't believe there was fulsome discussion about what the hospice is already doing. The director kind of gave some specific examples of situations that are occurring at the hospice to showcase kind of the need for that position sooner rather than later. The director again kind of reaffirmed that the goal is to transition to the fundraising arm of a foundation or a friends group that can help fund this position later on, but more showcase that there's situations that arise within the hospice as families are transitioning into there under kind of extreme circumstances, and then they require some help and understand what supports exist. So how to find funding for different things that may be required, how to find aid for families that may be young families that are going through a pretty difficult time, what to do with the children and such. So that was kind of the discussion. There wasn't a kind of a deep into what already exists at the hospice and what staff are available there at the moment. And then when it comes to the COCHE funding, there was, I would classify it as kind of minimal discussion as to was there other opportunities within the counties itself. The director kind of identified that the fundings had been utilized where they could within the county, and then this request from the women's group really kind of fit well with what the specifics of the funding are for.
Sure. Kim?
Thank you. I think that this particular situation, their request for support from the Women's Center is just one example of how the county operates within a whole environment of various organizations and stakeholder groups who are all, I think, committed to supporting our community and ensuring that the most vulnerable in our society are protected. The fact that the Women's Center they saw the need for the human trafficking support and service in our community and took the initiative to develop this site is something that was really recognized by the staff as badly needed. Certainly both from Anne Marie's team and Kevin McNabb's team. We need to be able to support these folks, and there are not, the resources even across the province are quite limited. So I think part of what the thinking that goes into this recommendation, they took on a significant responsibility in developing an entire home and asked the county to simply support a single room in that home so that they can get the project completed. But this is part of the service that if an outside organization doesn't take on some of these things, then either they simply won't happen or they will fall back to the county to try and resolve. And I believe that, as we've said before, we're stronger together, and where we can have community groups and nonprofit organizations that are strong and healthy and work with us. It's just that breadth of organizations and responsibilities, I think, is helpful to all of us.
Thank you, Kim. Councillor Gregg.
Just finally, a request to split the motion then, please, on the floor to 4 specific motions.
Okay, fair enough. Any other discussion? Sorry, Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. I just wanted to add my thoughts on the deputation we had from the hospice. We certainly all know of families that have greatly benefited from the work of the hospice, and this request was for seed money for a social worker for the next 2 or 3 years until, as Chair Nielsen indicated, their foundation is in a position to fully fund it. It was certainly, the explanation given to us by the executive director from the hospice certainly warranted consideration, and that's all that this recommendation is for consideration. We talked at the committee about our healthcare initiative, the 0.75%. Now, I know the council is going to be debating what level of support we continue to provide that healthcare initiative. But if it does continue, the healthcare initiative does continue at, currently it's 0.75%. If it continues at that or is reduced somewhat downwards, this is one consideration that the committee thought council should look at if there is funds available in that healthcare initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I've had a motion to split the vote out into 4 individual motions. Is there a seconder for that motion? Counselor Nielsen. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, so the first one then is the suggestion or the recommendation to support the Women's Center with $26,000 from existing funding. Is there a mover for that motion, please? Counselor Carlton, seconded by Counselor Nielsen. Any discussion? Counselor McQueen.
Just point of clarity through you to the chair. Did I hear it correctly that this is funds that come outside of our organization, that if we don't use it, we lose it?
That is exactly correct. Okay, any other discussion, questions? Counselor Matrazos.
Thank you. Through you, the warden, just because it was clarified at the beginning of our discussion that there was a difference. So on this screen, it still reads as part of the 2024 budget process, but it was my understanding it was from the 2023 commitment. So perhaps if the clerk could read the motion that we're actually voting on. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. We'll clarify that. Tara?
So the current motion on the floor is that staff be directed to provide funding support of $26,000 to the Women's Center Grey Bruce for infrastructure capital projects from COCHE funds from the 2023 to 2024 allocated funding.
Okay, so everybody understands what we're voting on. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. The next motion, that staff be directed to include funding support for $10,000 annually for 3 years for Grey Bruce Hospice Incorporated for consideration of Grey County Council as part of our 2024 budget process. Is there a mover for that, please? Councillor Hutchison, second. Councillor Mackey, any discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. The next is that report CSR CS 2423 regarding an overview of Grey County housing initiatives be received for information. Someone move that, please. Councillor Pringle, Councillor Nielsen, any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Fourth and final is that report CSR CS 2323 be received and that the shortfall in funding for the short-term shelter program be funded from anticipated 2023 surplus from the housing budget and the remainder from housing reserves and one-time funding. Someone move that, please. Councillor Deckert and Councillor Nielsen. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Right, we need a motion to actually approve or receive the balance of the minutes from that meeting. Councillor Hutchison and Councillor Matrazos. Discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. 6B. That regards the correspondence from Great Highlands regarding the Beaver Valley Tourism Sustainability Strategy. Someone care to move that, please? Councillor Nielsen, Councillor McQueen. Councillor Nielsen, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Warden. What I wanted to just pull this for is to kind of speak to Grey Highlands motion here, as well as to acknowledge that I could be corrected, but the committee of the whole meeting, Town of the Mountains supported the MOU concept as well, and I believe it's passed through Town of the Mountains Council, and I can stand corrected from Councillor Matrazos if I'm wrong there. But both Town of the Mountains and Grey Highlands are supportive of moving forward with an MOU with the county. Grey Highlands Council did have a fulsome discussion about this, and one of the things when it comes to the Beaver Valley Sustainable Tourism Strategy is we need to continue that discussion with the public. And as we move forward with the MOU, Grey Highlands is hopeful that we can have the public to be able to not participate in the creation of the MOU, but be able to be there as councils of all three interested parties, Town of the Mountains, Grey Highlands, and the county itself, discuss the MOU so that everybody is understanding moving forward. We want to make sure that it's a very transparent process, because the more transparency we can have here, the more support we can get from the 23 different stakeholder groups that exist from various degrees on a spectrum of what their wishes are for the valley's future. And so I'm hopeful here, being at the county table, that we can move forward with an MOU with the county, Town of Blue Mountains, the municipality, and RTO 7. And I'm hoping that we can do that as quickly as possible. I do have a question directed towards perhaps CEO Wingrove regarding the two motions from the municipalities coming up to the county. So the county has voted to not have MOU discussions until after the budget, but both the municipalities have voted to move forward those MOUs. Just wondering if you can help me understand how that might work on a staffing level. The MOU will not be coming forward to Grey County Council until post-budget, given the motion that was passed. But with the motions here, is there high-level discussions that are allowed to take place, or how can that move forward in the interim?
Kim?
Thanks, Councillor Nielsen. I'm going to ask Savannah to speak to what the most current discussions or intentions have been on from ECDEV.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Warden. At this point, our understanding was that we could have high-level discussions, but not work on drafting anything. So that was our intent. We'll be meeting as a group early in December, because we've received a lot of correspondence since we have got the approvals from all three bodies, but we won't, until we get the approval here at this table, actually draft an MOU unless council decides to change that and reverse that decision. But I just wanted to throw that out there, that high level will continue.
Thank you, Savannah. Councillor Nielsen.
Not to try to be too smart of an individual here, but a hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It might be great if we could have a motion to reconsider on those from somebody who is part of the winning side. That's all for today. Thank you, Warden.
And if that motion comes forward, we'll see what happens. Councillor Matrosovs.
Thank you. Through you, the warden, a point of clarification. We actually did voice our concerns at the Town of Blue Mountains. We did not want to move forward until the same conversation that we had here at the table until after the budget talks, because even the first year of actions indicates staff time, which would indicate cost. And so we've just asked for that space to be able to, at our Town of Blue Mountains level of budget discussions, equally so as I had raised my concerns here at the county table. The notice of motion in principle, no problem with it, but every notice of, not notice of motion, the memorandum of understanding, but every memorandum of understanding that has actions in it does have costing implications. And we've asked for, given that we're all dealing with our budgets, we've asked for that same kind of time. So I needed to make that clarification. Thank you.
Councillor McQueen.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and thanks for Councilor Nielsen for pulling this. Yes, we had a lengthy discussion at our council, and the motion that was here for information was sort of trying to find that middle ground to bring everybody back to the same room, talk about it, everybody to be educated and informed equally. That was the whole intent of having that meeting. We also have made a request through our delegation request to the ministries in Roma, or at Roma, one is the Ministry of Tourism, the football player, whatever his name is. Can't remember, is it Ian? I can't remember his name. Anyway, my point is, and that was a side that somebody told me that he was a past football player. But anyway, the point is to look at provincial funding. Obviously, the ministry does support the Niagara region with a lot of funding. So use that as an example, but the big part of this whole process is looking for other sources of funding to help support that. And that's the big part of this whole visionary part. And so one is, well, let's make that request. And I don't know if there's a possibility, if we're successful, if the county tourism department would be interested in being part of that delegation. If so, if we are granted that, but we have to look outside the box. We have to look for funding. But a few years back, it was talked about from our director of economic development, Sabera, there was back in about 2015-16, the province sort of really rolled out the whole part of tourism in the province of Ontario and the value of that. And there was a big publication, and I have somewhere, probably others have seen that, but it's tourism is a big thing. in the province of Ontario, not only for those that, well, even was it a couple of years back during COVID, the staycation, they pushed tourism that people stay here and spend money here. So, you know, and as we know that the Blue Mountain Resort is sort of that keyhole to the world, that people do come to this area and not only look at what we have to provide in a natural setting, but also spend money. So again, I you know, think about it. I know that, you know, there was a lot of discussion around budgetary concerns, but a lot of this is about looking for outside that and how can we foster a plan moving forward. And again, one of those is delegation to the ministry. So just want to share that.
Thank you, sir. So the motion on the floor is to receive the minutes of the meeting. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Closed meeting matters. The motion reads that the Committee of the Whole does now go into closed session pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act of 2001 as amended to discuss: one, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land, more specifically a purchase for emergency shelter; and two, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations or a person, group, or persons or organization, specifically development charges. I don't know who writes these, but man, are you a lawyer? In any case, that is the motion to go into closed session. Is there a mover for that motion, please? Councillor Deckard and Councillor Mackey. Oh, did we want a recess? You were wondering? Well, why don't we have the motion? Can we recess when the motion's on the floor? Probably not. Yeah, we'll recess for till 10 after 11, and then we'll come back and vote to go into closed session. Okay, we'll bring the meeting back to order. So we have the motion to go into closed session for the reasons I listed there. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We are now in closed session. And those staff that are needed